All right, guys, welcome to Trading with Meatball. Here's the Twitter page. If you haven't seen us, please come join us on the Twitter, and we'll be doing some spaces trading. We'll be doing the live trading on the YouTube maybe, but could be boring because we don't trade a lot. We like to wait for a trend, and maybe we don't run a trade the first hour or two. That could be boring, right? So the spaces and the YouTube live trading may not launch right at the open, but one of the things we'd like to provide is a platform where people can hang out together and not FOMO, no fear of missing out. And so trading by yourself and having the discipline to wait for the proper setup can be very difficult. And I spent the last 6 months in the desert, isolated in a one bedroom, trying to figure this out. And I finally found something I think I can duplicate, and we're going to share it with you. I'm just an old dog. I know a few tricks. I used to be a broker with a license when I was just a young kid pounding the phones. I didn't know anything. That was 20 years ago. Went through a bad divorce, said I'd never trade again. Ended up a single parent with no child support, selling cars 12 hours a day, and then selling houses, and then working cubicle jobs. And, I just decided to start trading again a couple years ago. I was bored with the cubicle job. I'd pull the phone out and watch the market open. About 30 or 40 minutes after the market opened, I knew I had to go back to work, and I'd pick a trade. And man, I used to hit. And so I became a pretty good little scalper. But when I took off work and I sat home for a week and I did nothing but trade, I sucked. I lost money. Why is that, right? You look at yourself and criticize yourself, you'll get stronger. My problem was trading too much and trading too early. But when I was at work, I'd sit there and wait 30, 40 minutes, and I ended up with a good setup. And why is that? Well, there's a lot of volume in the open. There's a lot of fake outs, but it seems to me from studying this the last 2 years, and I have lost a lot of money the last couple years trying different people's methods. And there's some good ones now. There's some good tools. There's some good teachers. There's some very technical guys. They use the NASDAQ level two, the hedge pressure, the order flow. There's all kinds of good stuff that's taught out there and that's available. I'm going to give you some knowledge you can use to duplicate these trades without me and without anybody anytime you want to. So you have this knowledge in your head. It cannot be taken away from you. You can always fall back on it to make some money when you have to go to the dentist or you want to buy that rental house or just want to grow yourself a little bit more. Now let's look at the chart here. This is what we traded today. We did one trade today. Actually, did a second, very, very small trade on Rivian later in the day. Very small trade, and I held it overnight. But basically, sat here all day and just did this one trade. So let's look at it. Let's see, why did we take this trade? What did we do? Why did we do this? Well, we'd posted on Twitter this morning that we were going to. Let's take a look at what we did before the market opened here. And this is what, 9:09. Okay, before the market opened, I said, "Hey, it looks like it's going to open in the chop zone." And there's a yellow zone there that I drew, and I'm just a silly old man, and I draw these myself, and you can too. We'll talk about that later, but I told everybody be patient. It looks like it's going to open up in this zone. Okay, so what happened then? Here it is chopping 9:57. It's about half an hour in, and it's chopping along this bottom line. I had reminded everybody earlier to mark the opening print, and that's this black line here. I usually mark it on the 1 minute chart. This is the 5 minute chart. This is what I trade, and I use the 20-day moving average a lot, which is this yellow line. I'll look at the 1 minute chart the first 20 minutes or something and then switch to the 5 minute. But I mark the opening print on the 1 minute chart. So when you go to the 5 minute chart, it looks a little off, but the opening print is magic and it reacts to it. You can see it right here about 10:30. It was bouncing off and it stopped right at the opening print. It's amazing if you mark the opening print how it reacts to that. Same thing with these zones that we draw, support and resistance zones and trend lines. You should draw the lines. It's okay if you think you suck. You'll get better. And you're actually you're going to be amazed at how good you are drawing the zones and the lines. It's not difficult. And we can do that later. There's lots of good videos on that. But let's keep moving and talk about this trade and why we took it. You can see it opened up in the chop zone. It went down. And then it chopped along this line. And we were showing that to people here when it was chopping along the line. And there it is right there chopping along the line. So let's look at that some more. Just a little yellow zone drawn by a silly old man, but it chops right along, and it sure did. This is 10:13. This is 45 minutes in. We still have not taken a trade, and it's just chopping right along that yellow zone that I drew. Uh, you know what? It's amazing how it reacts. Let's look at this one. Here's how it reacts to the opening print. And this is 10:39. This is an hour into the session. We still haven't taken a trade. But you'll notice the orange line here is the 20-day moving average. And we'll go to the big chart. Here's the big chart. And here it is about 10:30. It's touching the opening print, and it's also touching the 20-day moving average. Okay, so it's starting to get my attention because it's showing us what it's going to do. And there were some good trades earlier in the morning with the wicks on the bottom of the candles. If you learn how to read candlesticks, that can help you a lot. The bigger the wick, the bigger the movement that's coming up. And this one sure didn't lie, man. Look at the size of these wicks. And there's some good trades down here if you took them. And it just went up from there, and it was telegraphing the punch. You can look at the volume down here. If you want to trade and increase your odds, there's an old Motorhead song. I think it's the Ace of Spades album. They said, um, making the best of the cards I've been dealt, adjusting the odds so that I win. That's what I want to do. I want the easy trade. I want the easy money. And there is no such thing. Professional traders will tell you they only hit 40%, 50% of the trades. I guess that could be true. I've studied under a lot of guys, and I've made and lost money trading with the different discords. Not going to badmouth any of them. I learned something from all of them. Okay, and the money I lost was my fault because that's my hand clicking the mouse, not theirs. The problem I've identified is trading too much too early. For me, whatever. The discords, they trade a lot, and I want to trade with them, and so that's my fault. See. But again, learn from other people. And there's a lot of times where they'll trade early and they're reading these zones and support and resistance zones, hedge pressure, whatever. And if you read the candlesticks, a lot of times the candles and the tails will tell you where it's going. In this case, it bottomed out and then it moved up. Now, right here is where it gets my attention. We're about an hour and 15 minutes in, and it crosses the opening print on the way up. The opening print is this black line here, and this orange line is the 20-day moving average. Now, keep in mind, I am on the 5-minute chart. It matters what time frame you're trading and the indicator that you're using. Okay, so you just one method. I'm not saying this is the best method or the only method. There's a million ways to make money, but this is my favorite setup and my favorite trade, so I'm sharing it with you. And this is a trade that I try to duplicate the most. And there's other ones like trading down here off these zones, but today we got my usual suspect, my favorite trade. About an hour in, it's actually an hour and a half in when I took the first trade. I circle these if you see it on Twitter. When I take the trade, you'll see this on Twitter. And I said calls here. If I'm in a hurry, I'll just post the picture and then I'll come back. But if I circle it, I took that. That's the trade I took. Okay. And this was 11 o'clock. All right. So let's take a closer look at the trade. We took a trade an hour and a half into the session. We finally did a trade. All right. So let's take a look at it. She crosses over the 20-day moving average. It's an hour and a half after the open, so we've identified the trend. The boys in New York have faked everybody out and taken their money, and now they're showing us their cards. It's moving up. I don't need to catch the whole trend. I'm looking for 20, 30, 40%, and I'll see you the F later, okay? If you can do that every time you trade, you'll have a nice house and a nice car, and you can go to the dentist anytime you want to. If you're young, you don't care about that. When you're older, you'll care. So, dentist is expensive, by the way, when you get older. So here it is, moving over the opening print at the same time it's moving over the 20-day. I'm all in. This is my trade. I like to take the second candle after it moves over the 20. This is a big candle though, right? And I'm watching it and I'm saying, okay, well, I need to get a piece of this. But let's take a look at the big picture here. Let's take a look at the big picture. And you can see how we got a couple red candles right after we got into the trade. Okay, so then I posted the 15 minutes says it all. And why? Why did I say that? Okay, we had red candles, guys. Let's go back and look at this. And I'm saying, oh shit, maybe we made a mistake, right? Because we're not gonna hit all the trades. But I zoom out to the 15-minute, and when I do that, and you can look at the 30-minute or the hour, and you should. When you zoom out, you can spot the trends, man. It's all green. Look at this. Okay. And so I posted on the Twitter for everybody. The 15-minute says it. And that's how I pulled my stop loss and I went commando. Commando means I ain't wearing no underwear. Okay. No stop loss. I'm confident in my trade. I used to get faked out a lot, but learning how to read candlesticks and zooming out, waiting for the trend, these are things that increase the odds in our favor. And I posted, I'm okay with this. I'm comfortable with this. Okay. So the next one now, we're looking at it wicking off the opening print. Again, it's amazing how it reacts around the opening print. And I'm telling everybody, I'm going to sell into 20 or 30%. Okay. You got to decide when you sell. But I'm telling people, if they haven't traded with me before, what I do. I'm going to sell it. I ain't holding it. I don't care about a home run. I get in and I get out. All right. And she's moving up. Okay, then. So we got a couple green candles, and now we're pretty confident we did not make a mistake. And we're patting ourselves on the back for zooming out and checking the 15-minute chart instead of panic selling, which is easy to do, guys. I'm trading options. Options are risky, okay? You can lose 30 or 40%, 50% as soon as you click the mouse, right? And there's a spread now. There's a bid and there's an ask. And when you're selling, you're going to get the smaller, the bid, right? So if it's 25 by 30 and your screen says you're up 30%, look at that bid price of 25. Look at your cost. Know how much you're really up before you sell, because you're selling into the bid. So in this case, it's moving up, and I'm telling everybody it looks like it could work out, down here, but a few minutes later we get some green candles, and I'm saying, okay, it looks fine. Good luck, everybody. And yep, it sure did. This is 11:29 now. This is 2 hours in, okay? And we held for what, about half an hour, 35 minutes or something. And with these big candles here now in that short period of time, everybody should be profitable. But one of the things that eats us, and it kills me too, is when you make the right call and it goes the way you said, but you still don't make any money. And trading options, I'm talking about. Why is that? Well, it's a time value. If you go too far out of the money, most of the time it's got to have a huge movement for us to have a good profit. We don't always get that. So I don't go too far out of the money most of the time, one or two positions out. I'll buy a contract for 30 or 50 bucks. I like that. And let's get out of it when it goes up. And right there, we should all be profitable, I hope. And the next one, we are out, and I will see you later. And I'll take my 43% and zero fucks were given. Okay. This is the trade. This is my setup. This is my bread and butter. This is my favorite trade. You can do this. Let's look at the 5-minute. You can duplicate this anytime you want to. You can do it on the puts. Here's the second candle coming down, and there's your puts right there. But look at this retracement, right? Okay, so right here, you might have got one, and then they take it away from you, and you could sell that easily because you just lost, right? Your screen's showing you down 40%, and then boom, it goes back down. The trades are not always going to work out, and there's chop right here. This is chop. From here to here is chop. And that was about 12:30 to the end of the day. Now you can trade the chop if you're careful and you get in and you get out, but you're not getting home runs. And so what I found was selling into 20, 30, 40% gains is the way to go for me. And I can grow an account very rapidly and be very happy. And I don't need to double or triple my money every time I trade. Take a calculator, guys, and times 1.25 times 100 bucks or something, 50 bucks times 1.25, and just keep hitting times 1.25. There's 5 days in a week, 22 trading days in a month. Gets pretty stupid after 2 or 3 weeks if you keep hitting 20 or 30% every time you trade. I want part of the movement, and I posted when I sold this that I was taking the money off the table. Yep. And then I sold into that. I'm telling everybody, I sold into that. Okay, so it went up more. I don't care. We just want part of the trend. We don't need the whole trend, okay? But that's one of my favorite setups. And we'll talk about increasing the odds in our favor. I have a list of stocks, the usual suspects, Amazon, QQQ, Tesla, the usual suspects. And I'm looking for trends. So I want to see the market or most of the stocks I follow going green if I'm going to buy calls. I don't want to buy calls when the market's red. I'd be looking for something to buy puts on if the market's red. So I don't want to fight the trend. We had everything today. The market was turning green. We waited an hour, hour and a half, hour and a half. It moved above the opening print. It moved above the 20 MA. All these things cut down on our risk and increase the odds in our favor. So I hope you guys will come back and trade with us again. And if you like the content, drop us a like and subscribe. And I hope you guys all get rich and do something good with the money, help somebody, and God bless you. Thanks for joining us.